Happy New Year, everyone, and greetings on a chilly, chilly Thursday here from Painted. I'm happy to be back. It's New Year, lots of stuff going on. I know everybody knows about the studio, so I'm not gonna go over miles of that. Just suffice it to say, we're slow. Hey, Rima, nice to see you here, honey. Hi. I guess a brief update is that I live in a town where retail establishments have a lot of requirements to open, and every step that we take in our build out has to be approved by various inspectors. So it's slow. So every time we do something, an inspector has to come in and check it, and ooh, nice hair sticking out. Inspector has to come in and check it and make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do. So where I thought we would be in this process and where we actually are two different places. It just is slow. I joked around about Easter, but given the way everything's going, I might not be that far off. I'm hopeful for the end of February. I've been saying that for months, that I was hopeful for Thanksgiving, then I was hopeful for Christmas. Well, I'm hoping for the end of February. Anybody who's seen our personal posts also knows that, my personal post also knows that I actually just found out this morning that we're moving out of our home by June. Long story, but landlady is choosing to keep her home, the two flat building, turning it into a single family home. So we have to find a new place to live. So yeah, 2019, big year of changes. Big year. Hi Gina, nice to see you. So I guess that's enough of the personal stuff. It's not that interesting. I'm only so interesting about the personal stuff for so long. Meanwhile, we'll get into studio projects. As you can see, I have cases of product already starting to build up in the studio and in my dining room to go into the new place. Why aren't they being stored there? I don't have a floor yet. Neither here nor there. That'll get done. Everything's getting done. So today I thought we'd start out with a project that I've been working on. I have another one of those terrific 8-legged tables back there. This one actually has a finial in the center of the legs, and I had to do a lot of stripping. If anybody saw the previous pictures on our page, it was lime green. I don't mean just lightly lime green. I mean lime green. It was that green. So it had to be stripped, and it had about 8 layers of paint on it, and that provided an interesting surface to work from because all the legs are highly detailed. There's a lot of ridge detail around the top of the table where the tabletop itself sits on. Got it all stripped out. Took a lot more work, but it had to be done. And I've painted the legs black, and then I'm sure some of you may have seen the video of me going like this super fast. I had texture on top that after I'd cleaned it, sanded it, primed it, and then put set coat on it, there were chunks taken out of the laminate on top, and it needed the veneer on top, and the holes needed to be fixed. There was no way to save. Everybody said, oh, why don't you save these tables and refinish them? This table didn't have that as an option. They're big chunks out of the top. There was a lot of damage to it. So I had to repair the damage, paint it, and then figure out how to deal with the rest of the damage next. So normally what I do, and if you saw that video of me, I backfill grain on cabinet doors, on tables, all that sort of stuff with Venetian gem. I use Venetian gem, yeah, Moonstone Gray. As you can see, I use stuff in my studio a lot, and this got hit by the spray gun. Oh, Connie, great. Nice to see you. So what I did is I applied 2 coats, super tight, backfilling in all the crevices with Venetian Gem Moonstone Gray because I'd painted the tabletop gray. I usually start out with an idea. I don't always have a complete thought in mind when I'm being left to myself. But I'm also trying to get myself up here on my iPad so that when I move this back there to show you what we're doing, I can actually see what you all are saying. And, you know, right now, oh, sorry, I gotta turn the volume down. I thought I had zeroed that out, but I guess I didn't. I don't need to listen to myself on top of everything. So we're gonna go back. We're gonna start working on this tabletop. I'm gonna work with stencils. We're gonna work with rollers. We're gonna show you how to use the spray adhesive to help a stencil stay in place. I'm also going to show you my sanding techniques and things like that. And then later on, we're going to cover some glass bead material, the micas, all of that stuff that you've seen me jarring up and showing you that I'm going to carry in the new studio for you all to purchase. I'm going to show you some of the ways that I like to use it. All right, watch me try not to throw the camera across the room. Yay, I managed not to do that. Now I got to grab the iPad so I can hope to read your questions. The camera is going to be placed up very high today. So because my table is actually, the piece I'm working on is actually on top of another table because I needed to get at the legs and I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the camera in where it belongs. Hey Jeff, nice to see you here. All right, I think maybe you're on your own TV. Okay, so let me adjust this so you can see the tabletop. So the first thing I have to do, move other things out of the way, is that while I have applied Venetian Gem on here, it's not even. So I need to sand it a little bit. And what this did is there's some, right in here, there were a lot of chunks taken out of the center of the table. I don't know what the people did with it. I know at one point this was in some, when it was lime green, it was in a kindergarten classroom. So now I have to, now that I've filled everything in, I've got to move some things around just a little bit so that I can actually see what's going on. And I got to sand this. My table's a little off its angle here. Now, if this were wood that I was sanding, I'd be sanding with the grain. And since it's not, though, I can sand a little bit every way I want. Because I will be putting coatings and stuff over this, so you're not necessarily going to see any sanding marks. I am using 220 or 250. 220 sandpaper. It'll give me a nice velvety surface. And yeah, there's a little high spot still there. Now you've seen me do this on other pieces, but I want to restate that this is 100% paintable when it's done. Meaning I can put set coat or any other high quality paint right over this and it'll take it fine. Because Venetian Gem is 100% acrylic product and it has a nice sealing property. Now, I have to get the dust off because let's face it, you don't ever leave the dust on it. That's the surest way to have your paint not adhere and fail. I don't use tack cloths. I use Swiffer. Why do I use Swiffer instead of a tack cloth? The answer is very simple. Tack cloth leaves resin behind that is not compatible with water-based paints. It leaves an oily, tacky, sappy residue behind that will screw up your projects. Ask me how I know. I have found all of this out the hard way, one way or the other. Including in the middle of teaching a class, and we had stuff not stick because we were using tack cloth that we had not used before. There used to be one that you could work in it with and you wouldn't have resin behind, but I've never found those again. So this takes off all that sawdust, or the sanding dust, and because it's electrostatic charged and there's no moisture, there's no solvents, there's no liquids involved in this, it cleans everything off without leaving any residue. I've been using these for years now. Let's see. What's under the Venetian gem? Under the Venetian gem, Jeff, is first a coat of 2-pound cut shellac, and then there is set coat, what color did I use? Set coat gravel gray. And if you see the video that shows me troweling all this on really super fast, you will see that Venetian gem color and the set coat color. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stencil on here. Now, obviously this stencil is a little bit too small. It doesn't cover the whole thing. That's not a problem because we're going to move the repeat around. I'm just shifting positions. Now, what I have done, and I will, I don't think I put on enough. I am going to lightly spray the back with a little bit of spray adhesive to keep the stencil from moving. And the reason the table's spinning is that I had the spray adhesive underneath it. And I don't use anything special, anything fancy. I use whatever's cheapest. This one happens to be the Elmer's, and I shake it up really well, and I do a very light spray, and I'm going to turn the camera so you can see what I'm doing. You can see I have my easel wall here. Make sure I got the right side. I had one side that was the correct side, one side that was the incorrect. Okay, I'm just going to take this and light spray. Don't hose this down. Don't go crazy with this. If you do, you'll have glue residue sitting all over your surface. Now, the other trick to this is that you don't put this right down on your surface immediately. You take your stencil and you let the glue set a little bit onto the surface. That way, when you pull the stencil back up, all the glue stays on the stencil, not on your table or whatever else, or your wall. And now I got it on. And all this does, the only reason this helps with bleeding, and it's very specific. Let me move this back over here so y'all can see what I'm doing. The only reason this helps with bleeding is it's not that it glues everything down perfectly and you'll never have a lift or anything like that. What it actually does is that it, just the camera, it keeps the stencil from shifting around so that you don't have that adding to your issues with bleeding as well. So what I've got is this nice stencil here, and I think this one is from Sherry Zeman at Faux Design Studio. And I'm going to take my trowel. Now I may have some challenges because this stencil does have some lifted spots. This was a classroom stencil that I got from her, and it's been used before. I'm going to use some Venetian gem white on white, and then while that's still, the stencil's still laying down and I can move it, it's still wet, I'm going to roll a pattern through the wet Venetian gem on here to give it a little cool texture. I haven't decided which of these two rollers I'm going to use yet. One is, I think, Jennifer's mermaid roller, and I think this one is the python. By the way, I will be carrying these. You will be able to purchase many of the things I'm talking about directly from me, not Faux Effects products. That is not one of the product lines I can carry because we have other distributors in the area. And I'm in the backyard of somebody else, so that would be not okay. Let's see. Next, I'm going to dip in. You know, I may take, since I'm going to be doing the rollers, I may take a little tape over here, tape down the edges so that I can protect the table edge from the rollers. So let's do that. You know, it takes a little extra time to do some of this stuff, but the momentary delay in the long run makes your project come out better. When I have this, everything centered right, I can just turn this table that I created with my knee. I don't have this completely centered, but it doesn't matter because once this is dried, I'm going to move the stencil around and the repeat pattern will cover the whole thing. And since it's not a 100% geometric, perfectly centered pattern, the fact that it's not centered 100% will be fine. Let's see. Make sure I'm not taking any of the extra gifts from this other uses into my finish here. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a step over to the side, read some questions. Deborah, thank you. It is a pretty stencil again, Sherry Zeemans. Texture roller is brilliant. Yes, it is. Natalie, I'm glad you love the stencil. I do too, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. All right, I know that was a very exciting moment staring at a blank screen, but I can't have the iPad right here in front of me because then I'd have to plaster over it. All right, so this color is Venetian Gem in white on white, otherwise known as white. And I'm going to do this carefully because I don't want to lift up stuff. Ooh, I scraped a little bit off of here from what was stuck to the stencil. And my stencil isn't super thick, but it's got a little bit of a raised texture compared to some of the other thinner stencils I have. So I have to make sure to smooth it nicely. And I want to fill all the blank spaces, but I don't want to build it up thicker than the stencil. I don't want to frost the stencil into this. One, because I don't need that much product. Two, that when you kind of bury the stencil, when you then pull it back up, it gets elevated ridges around the edges that look really bad. And then you have to sand it, and you're just giving yourself more work. Now, if I was doing something else with paint on stencil, I might lift my stencil up to see how it looks. With plaster, you don't do that. Why? Because then there's a little bit of plaster on the edge of the stencil when you lift it up, and then it'll smush and you'll have a bled look and a rough edge. It won't be nice. And I want the nice contrast of the gray and white that I'm going to get from this. And as you notice, even though I still have the plans to run the roller through this, I am not rushing my stenciling because I know I have plenty of open time with this. If I was worried about the open time, I'd add some So Slow, which is a drying retarder from Faux Effects designed just for their products. Although although I do think it would work in other ones. Never had the need to try. But doesn't mean I won't. And then as soon as I've done this, I will throw the roller through it and try not to plaster my fingers quite so much. I'm working very hard not to have, I've got a lot of little pointy spots right in here and right around in here that I could have lift happen really easily. So I generally try to go in their direction so that little pointy spots don't get lifted by the trowel. Because that's another great way to get your product bleeding. I won't be able to look over and answer anybody's questions until I have finished this, but I promise you I will do so. So a little bit of, a little right there. I'll sand that right off because it's not enough for me to worry about. Some of the product lines I will be carrying will be not only Artistic Painting Studios rollers, but I will be carrying some of their plasters and their mediums. So I'm going to have a whole cool line of stuff to work with that is furniture friendly. Alright, and you see I got a couple spots I actually hit the gray. I didn't tape off enough. Alright, so I have now filled this texture all over the place. I'm going to take I think I'm going to do the wave roller. I'm going to do the wave roller, and I'm going to come in I don't like how it sat right there. My first pass wasn't that great. So I'm going to trowel it smooth because yes, you can do that. Alright, let's see if I got enough pattern in here. I'm not too crazy. I think what I may do, I don't like how that laid out. So I'm going to still use the same pattern. You see I have some work time with this product, which is nice. I need a little, I think I'm going to just kind of do like this in different directions so that if I've missed something, I can fill it in and not have it be a problem. Oops, I ran that off the edge of the stencil, which is what I was trying to avoid. I missed that one. Go. Do I like that? No, not yet. I'm not quite there yet. So the other cool thing I can do, if I have one down here, and I don't. If I was really needing a lot more work time than I had, I can simply spritz this down with a little water. It wets the surface. It'll work. So I'm going to take this. I didn't like the way that went. I think I want it all in one direction because what I thought was going to look great. And I do this all the time in my studio. I do correct things that I'm not happy with. First or second time isn't always the charm. So I'm going to do that. There we go. And we're going to do this mermaid roller one more time. I'm going to do it the way little push on this right now. Normally I don't have to put a lot of pressure, but the plaster's getting a little bit dry. I'm good with that. So now I'm going to pull the stencil up. And the texture is actually really subtle in here. It's going to be hard for anybody to see it. But I like it. I think when it dries, because it's a little tacky, I'm going to sand it lightly, and then I'm also going to do all these other areas. Any place like here or here that I have a little pattern on, I will lightly sand it and get it off. All right, let me take this down. Yeah, I thought about that, Deborah, rolling it in both directions, but it's a wave pattern and it would have just been super gritty nasty. All right, let me turn this around so that I can see myself. And why won't it let me turn it around? Huh, this will be interesting. I've never had this happen before, that I can't actually turn my video around. So I gotta stick myself in here. The one thing I wanted to tell you all about was that we're also going to discuss glitter and the mica mixes and palette deco and that sort of thing. Let me I'm turning the phone around again to see if I can figure out how to get this back. There we go. That turnaround button disappeared on me for a minute. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what we got going here. It'll stay up. I have a weird little swing arm for my camera now, and it doesn't always like to stay where I'm putting it. See if that does it. Okay. So let me scroll back for a second, see if I missed any questions. Nope, we're all good. So the next step was you've seen me posting about the jars of glass beads, which is what's in all of these cases right here. So glass beads come in all kinds of sizes. Industrially, they're made as a dry lubricant or for polishing. So you tumble something with the glass beads and it knocks off the coarse edges, or as a dry lubricant, it will roll things along without having to be moist, or put on reels, or even if something just needs to shift inside another thing, you can put, it's like packing peanuts, only round so things move. But decoratively, they come in all kinds of sizes. Now this size is almost 3 millimeters to almost 4 millimeters. These are pinks, but they also come so small that they're like powder. The size I normally order is, and what we'll be selling are, I don't know, small. I think the size that I order is 0.5 to 0.75. And we mix them into stuff. You can mix them into any kind of clear gel medium so that you have something to grab it on, to support it when you want to put it on a surface, and something that will adhere it. I usually use Palette Deco. Palette Deco Clear is probably one of the products I use the most. And let's see if I can open this one. Try to not open it under my chin and then punch myself. So Palette Deco Clear, like all acrylic products, doesn't really look clear when you open it. It's white. That's the moisture in there. And when it dries clear, 100% crystal clear, non-yellowing. So what I usually do is I take stuff like beads of all kinds, or glitter. This happens to be glass glitter. I will carry some of that, but I'll also be carrying some of the polystyrene glitter, the poly glitter. No, that's not it. That's plaster. But I had this mix made for a client. So this is all pink and stuff, and not very interesting looking like this, but we're gonna grab a stencil that I had over here, and I've moved. So let's see if I can find it. Oh, there it is. And spray adhesive, where'd it go? Here's my spray adhesive. So, I'm going to take a little light spray. And if you noticed, I turned the can upside down. That's a good thing to do with spray adhesive, because otherwise the nozzle gets clogged. So if you turn it upside down and spray it, then the nozzle sprays empty and you're clear for the next time. So I just grabbed a stencil out of my myriad of stencil pile. I've got a little piece of board here. All right, this is going to show you exactly what I meant. See when I said let it dry a little, otherwise it's going to leave goo behind? It left goo behind because I didn't let it dry long enough. So, while it doesn't matter for this in particular, it's a reminder of why you don't do that. Hi, Linda. Hi, Melissa. All right, I've waved that around for a few minutes. I'm going to put my stencil back down on the board. I'm going to shift the camera a little bit, I hope. It's a little bit of a challenge. Again, this is a new swing arm that I'm getting used to. Okay, yep. All right, so one of my favorite tools for doing this is hotel room keys or expired credit cards or all that kind of stuff. I travel a lot, so I'm always got a few extra of these floating around. And all I'm going to do is take a goop load on here. That's a very technical term, I know, a goop load. And I'm gonna roll it. I'm not scraping it like I did with the trowel, because what that does is create drag marks. It doesn't fill it in. I'm buttering this on. I am quite literally working to bury the stencil, and all I'm trying to do is get the thickness of the bead. I don't want this built up super thick, but you can hear it's sort of rolling it across. And in here I have clear glass beads, pink glitter, pink mica, and God only knows what else that I can't remember because it was made for a client a couple years ago, and I always keep the extras for demo and class and stuff around. I have a whole gallon left of this because we were going to do more that we didn't do. So I'm just going to take all of this like that, and I filled it, and I'm scraping it, putting whatever I don't use back in the bucket. I got one little spot here. Of course, I'm trying to get that one little spot. Okay, and then I pull this off. And you see it leaves a nice clear relief. Now, of course, I have all of this still stuck on my stencil, so I'm going to set that aside for a second and grab a blank board that I have lying around, as I always have them. So when I'm doing this, that's a lot of product still on here. Let's make sure you can see that. A lot of product. So I take this and I scrape it back and I put it back in the bucket. because two reasons. A, this, I don't like to waste my product. It's a waste of money otherwise. And B, I don't want to clean my stencil off and have that all go down the drain. That is not a good idea. So I take that all off, and I do this on jobs. Every job I go to that I'm doing a mix like this, I have a scraping spot to clean the stencil off and the bucket to put it all back into. So while it looks like you're using a lot of product, you have to take into consideration that about 50% of what you put through your stencil is going to come back off of the stencil and go back into the container. All right, let me set that aside. So, messy as this is with the sticky stuff, we have how this is going to dry is going to end up looking like this clear dragon. All right, I'm going to angle you up because it's catching a funny casting a strange shadow, and I want you to be able to see what I'm talking about. So this is super thick and super strong and super gluey. I mean, I can do this on ceilings, no problems. I can leave this hanging like this. I won't have any sag while it dries. But then when it dries, it's going to dry to this nice, cool, this is mica flakes, there's glitter, there's all kinds of stuff in here. I don't think the pink shows to its best on the blue, but it's what I had. So you can see how it dries, and you don't see any of that white stuff that is the Palette Deco. And that's for all acrylic mediums that you mix stuff into. You know, a clear acrylic top coat looks whitish. And then when it dries clear. Alrighty, that's my first video of the year. I'm happy to see everybody here. I think I've covered about everything I had in mind for today, and let me know. You have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. If I've missed anything here, I will check into the comments again once I post this on my page. This will also be posted on my YouTube page, which is under my name, Maury Curtis Dunbar. So if you want to see these again and don't know where to find them, go to my YouTube channel because they all get posted there. Sometimes it takes me a little while. Yeah, I just posted the last one yesterday. I forgot I hadn't done it. The holidays kind of crept up on me. So there's really cool stuff to learn with all the things. I will be carrying a lot of these products myself. I'm going to be teaching them in person. You can come and experiment with them in person in my studio as soon as I can get the doors open. Gosh, keep your fingers closed. I'm tired of saying, it'll be open soon. And in the meantime, don't hesitate to ask me questions. You can contact me in this thread. You can message me on Facebook. My phone number is posted, so you can even call and ask me questions. I'm always open to help out anybody who needs some help. Oh, thank you, Sandy. That's very nice. Love the glitter products. Yeah, I do too. I've got new glitters that nobody else has right now coming out. I just have to wait until I can sell them. I'm trying, people. I'm trying. Anyway, have a great day, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm so excited. It's 2019. Woohoo! Have a good one. Bye-bye.